So, Shay, I think we're going to go full chaos and...
Let you start a podcast?
Let me start the podcast,
oh, boy. All right, so it's going to be our wild ride. Let's go.
Just a quick one. I have a question.
Uh-huh.
How is this movie significant to our podcast?
It got men as the lead character. I got nothing.
No. So, this is quite possibly the movie with the most actors of any podcast movie we've done that we've done other movies with them.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, do tell.
So there's Philip Bosco in Trading Places, Ted Danson in Saving Private Ryan, Margaret Collin in Independence Day. So there's a lot of people in this movie that we've already covered movies.
Well, we'll have to up that ante. So the number here is 3, so we need to find one with 4.
And then 5, and then say, it's going to be now a new thing that we have to do.
Oh, sounds good. I mean, I love challenges. I'm down.
All right. So, I'm Tyler.
I'm Shay.
This is Cinematically Correct.
And this was your choice or my choice? Whose choice was it?
I was your choice because my choice is next week. The audience recommend.
Yes, you're right. So this was my choice, and I picked it for a few reasons. We've already gotten called out that apparently it's not a super popular movie because...
It's also apparently not a classic. And...
Well, I also didn't call it a classic. So, anyways, I just said we haven't seen a lot of classics, which is a fair statement. But anyway, it has been seen and talked about a lot by people we personally know, but I guess that's not relevant to, other people. So, whatever. Just wanted to put that out there. But I picked it because it's something that, my brother was earlier 80s kid, so a lot of movies from the 80s were, really popular. Yeah, in my household, because, he was my older brother. And I know that, I watch Graveyard Girl, YouTube person. She talks about this movie. There's other YouTubers I've seen talk about this movie because of the whole ghost story thing. So, I was curious. It's one of those movies I knew the name of, but knew nothing about.
Well, yeah, I think that's fair. Also, it has Leonard Nimoy directing.
So well, I didn't know that
I didn't
when
either.
I picked it. So
if anyone who is listening happens to like Star Trek...
Not pointed at all, huh?
Not pointed at all. It has Leonard Nimoy directing.
And Leonard Nimoy may or may not be from Boston. Just, that's, So, we might be related, we have, a bond with one of our listeners. It could be, I don't know. It might not be anybody particular.
So, where to go now? The beer?
So, before we get into it, you do have a beer, and this is a beer you've seen a few times, but we've passed it over.
It is. It's Banded Brewing, and it's titled Band Together.
And for some reason, I want to sing a Beatles song every time I hear that.
It's brewed in Maine.
Okay. And why did you choose it for this movie?
Well, band together. They had to band together as roommates to take care of a baby because apparently it's the hardest thing in the world.
Apparently there was quite a learning curve.
So yeah, we'll see. It's an IPA, so not overly optimistic, but we'll see.
Satisfying.
That's not terrible.
For an IPA, that's almost an endorsement.
Well, it's got that juicy hops taste. It's got that, not quite the Christmas tree, but it's on the way. But
it's not quite there yet, so that's a plus.
It's not bad. Yeah. I'll give it a 3.7.
For an IPA, I find that impressive.
3.5.
Still, the fact that you're in the 3s is solid endorsement.
Well,
okay,
it's a beer and it's cold, so that gets 3 right there.
It is quite warm today. Okay, so do you want to give a brief synopsis? Because, it should be super brief.
Brief synopsis.
Three guys that are roommates in New York City have a baby left on their doorstep and they have to take care of it. There's also drugs.
Yeah, that's about the long and short of it. Okay, so going into the characters, how many people do you want to cover?
Well, we have to cover at least the main 3.
Okay, so the first one would be Tom Selleck, who plays Peter.
Yep.
He is an architect, I believe.
Yes.
He seems to be the most put together of the house.
He's the adult, grounded. He's still a bit of a...
He's a ladies' man.
Ladies' man, but
But responsibility-wise, he seems to have that a little bit more unlocked.
He has the adult job. The other two are an actor and artist. So
apparently we don't believe in creative endeavors. Got it. Understood.
No, he's the one that gets up and does a day job.
Yeah, his mustache really brings out his responsibility, I feel. So, I mean, for me, I think he's most well known for what, Blue Bloods?
Magnum P.I.
Oh
how dare you?
Sorry, I'm not 1,000 years old. So sorry. So yeah, I mean, I guess he was probably also the what do you call it? Heartthrob of the movie.
He was definitely the sex appeal. I read a story where, for the extra scene of the party in their apartment, they needed 100 people. 5,000 women showed up to hopefully meet Tom Selleck.
I just don't see it. I mean, we have Chris Hemsworth, we have Chris
Evans,
Darling, we have Chris Pratt. We have a lot of Chris's. We have the Chris's.
Darling, this is before they were born. This is like right as they were.
I know, but the mustache makes me feel like I would sneeze every time I kissed him. You know what I'm saying? So just no on that. No sneezing. Anyway, next person is Steve Guttenberg, who plays Michael, and I know him from It Takes Two. So Mary-Kate and Ashley movie from a long ass time ago, but that's what I know him from.
I mean, I think he's most well known for Police Academy.
I don't know that I've seen that. I looked it up when you mentioned it, and it looks familiar. So it's probably one of those movies I saw as a kid, but like never saw it again.
I mean, if your brother is an 80s kid, he's going to have seen it, and you're probably
going to have seen it just because I'm in the same house. Yeah, probably that.
I would imagine. I can't imagine you haven't seen it, because if not, we're watching it for the podcast.
Oh, the ever-growing list. But anyway, so he's more responsible than Jack, but less responsible than Tom Selleck. And I would not say it's because he's an artist. Artists can make a fine living. Thank you. However, the way he deals with the baby, I literally screamed at the TV. Like, the baby is crying, pick it up. What are you doing? And he called it. It. We knew that I think we knew she was a she at that point in time.
Well, it was a pink basket. Like,
I don't know that we knew her name right away. I don't remember the order in which things were found. But he said it like over and over. Yes. And it was just like, oh my goodness gracious. And even when he picked her up, he held her at arm's length, and I wanted to just take his arms off. I'm sorry. Most men are not that slow when it comes to babies. I refuse to believe that.
I mean, personally, I'm the oldest of 6, so I'm familiar with babies.
Right, so you have an unfair advantage, but...
But even if I wasn't, I still played football, so I'm going to tuck the baby in my arm like a football.
Right.
Like, that's just... It's the same shape, basically. So...
Great. Comparing babies to football is adorable. Anyway, but I didn't dislike him. I thought he was kind of cute with the whole dealing with the friend zone situation. I thought that was kind of adorable. You know, I didn't dislike him.
He had a conscience and not a horrible playboy dilettante like Jack.
Right. So he's just, you know. Then there's Ted Danson, who's Jack. Yep. And, I mean, you can't not like him because he's Ted Danson. Like, that's just...
Well, he's so well known for other things. Cheers, obviously. But then...
He was in The Good Place recently.
The Good Place.
Which that, like, sticks out to me just because of his IMDb photo. I'm like, oh, that's The Good Place.
Yep.
So, but anyway, he's one of those people, though, that always plays like a almost lovable, not bad guy, but like kind of bad, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like the purely golden boy.
Well, in Cheers, he was very much the golden boy.
Okay, well, Cheers is different.
But...
everything else I've seen him in.
He's got a bit of an edge to him.
Yeah.
There's something going on behind the scenes where he's pretending to be a good person, but he's kind of a monster.
But still kind of adorable, you know? And in this movie, it's the same kind of thing where he's not a great dude. Like, I mean, he clearly doesn't treat women very well. He clearly doesn't take himself very seriously. He doesn't take his responsibilities very seriously. But he's not a bad dude either. No. Like, he's just kind of slow and a little immature.
Right. I mean, it's the same character. I mean, he did the same kind of crotchety, slightly mean person with a heart of gold on Becker, too. So.
Oh, I loved Becker.
Yeah.
Oh, those were the days. Okay, so the only other person I need to cover would be my connection. So I know you have one, too. So who do we need to cover?
Who is yours?
Mine happens to be Nancy Travis.
Okay.
So can I go?
Go.
Okay, so Nancy Travis plays Sylvia, and spoilers, we don't like her. We'll get into everything with her because audiences disagree. However, she was on Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants with Alexis Bledel, who was Rory in Gilmore Girls. You're welcome.
So, mine is Derek DeLint.
You went down for that. You went down. Okay.
He was the Hungarian cellist.
Okay.
He was in Deep Impact with Elijah Wood, who was Frodo in Lord of the Rings.
Guys, he picked a Hungarian cellist in this movie. Does this count? Let me know. We need a verdict.
Oh, you said looks like the grapes of wrath. How dare you? How dare you say that this doesn't qualify when you said it looks like the grapes of wrath?
The Hungarian cellist. Okay, all right. I can see that our rules have loosened a bit.
It's not loosened. You had a one throwaway line reference, whereas this person was actually in the movie.
I actually prefer the references, but y'all don't let me have it, so I haven't done it. But, okay. Anyway, all right. So, let's be real. This is a comedy-type drama.
It's kind of like a lighthearted drama.
Yeah, but there isn't a lot of substance here. So, This will probably be quick for you guys. So, something new and different for us, so that's good. But there are a few things we can talk about in this movie.
Yeah.
So I think one of the bigger things that kind of pop up for us, because I always deal with the feminist side of movies and how they represent women. This one represented both sexes a little strange, a little different. So do we want to talk about the representation of men and women in this film?
The men were fumbling, incapable idiots for the first half of the movie.
Yeah, and they also, all of them were players, like ladies' men type.
They had no real responsibility. I get that that's where they were trying to go with, you have nothing but free time when you're single, and you can do whatever you want. And
can we talk about their apartment or penthouse or whatever we want to call that?
It's a freaking enormous apartment in New York City. It's astoundingly large.
Is it rational that they could have afforded that? I know architects make good money, and I guess a cartoonist could, depending on what he's doing it for. An actor? If he's famous, I guess. But I know I think you know some people who attempted to be actors and they don't do too good starting out.
They don't do very well. No, they have to do catering jobs and bartending jobs and...
Right. And then there's the whole question of they painted their walls with photos of themselves. So do they own the penthouse? I'm confused.
You're not getting that safety deposit back.
No, you're not. And also, I love you guys, but do men normally paint pictures of themselves on walls? It felt like a weird thing. Like, that's like a family thing you would do. And
it's the 80s? Maybe they were high at the time? I don't know.
It just felt like something strange. I'm not against it. It's just very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway. So, the men were represented as kind of lacking responsibility, lacking grounding, kind of no regard for...
Just like children with adult money.
Yeah, basically. And basically gave you an unrealistic expectation of what adulthood would be.
Oh, yeah. Can I sign up for, having all of the free time and no responsibility?
Now, if that's what adulthood is, we're doing it wrong.
I will sign up every time.
Right? Okay, but then there's the women in the movie. So there is the Rebecca, I think her name is, which is Tom Selleck's girlfriend in here.
Pseudo girlfriend, or the on again, off again.
Yeah, and then there's the mothers, and then there's two mothers, right? There's Jack's mother, and then there's somebody else. Oh no, it's a neighbor. The other one's a neighbor.
The neighbor.
And then there is Sylvia.
Yeah.
So, see, we have a conflicting opinion on how the women are represented. I was happy that they didn't represent the women as people who would drop everything because these helpless men can't handle anything. One of the examples that comes to mind is Rebecca. Tom Selleck's character approaches her and basically says, "You're a woman. You know what to do with the babies. You do it." And she's like, "Because I'm a woman does not mean that I know how to take care of babies, nor that I want to." So she doesn't help him. She goes off on her date and she lets him do his thing. And they have a very progressive relationship even for nowadays. Yeah. They have an open relationship where they can date each other in front of other people in front of each other. Good for them. I'm all for open relationships. But just amazing that is a thing that can be done in the 80s. I'm impressed. But the women are presented very, to me, independent and...
For some of them, yeah. I mean, there was the mother that does I'm going to do the best thing that I can for you, which is nothing. Good luck.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you gotta kick them out of the nest and let them fly.
Yeah.
Or fall to the ground.
Yeah, and I think that was a good thing to show because these men were clearly the type of men that would kind of hope for the help of women who would give it to them.
Looking for the easy way out.
Yeah.
Like, if you can find some way to make it easier, why wouldn't you?
Right. But then there's Sylvia. Do we want to talk about Sylvia?
I hated her character. It's so annoying.
Yeah, so for anybody who hasn't seen this, I guess if you're living under a rock like we have been... basically the whole movie, they are taking care of this baby that has shown up on their doorstep. There is a letter that states that the baby is from Sylvia. It is Jack's child and she can't handle it anymore and she's leaving the baby behind. So the whole movie is them taking care of the baby, bonding with the baby, going through hijinks with the baby, and we'll talk about the whole hijinks situation. But she then all of a sudden comes back and she's like, oh, I missed her, so I would like her back.
She's my baby. Give her back now.
Yeah, and she tries to take her to England and then has a change of heart and comes back and moves in with the boys and lives happily ever after. And let's say no to that.
Well, I think it would have been a better ending if they had not included that, last 5 minutes.
Right.
It's just them at the park with the baby, doing all the things, working as a trio, because they're friends, and that's just the thing that works best for them, right? It's they've figured out what works for their life, and it's better for everyone.
Right. So I have two opinions, right? So one, I feel like it would have been better for the boy's character arc, especially Jack's, to show that he fought for his rights with the baby and was able to get them. Like, he was able to fight for them and he was able to, get full or joint custody, whatever it worked up to be, and was able to work out a fatherhood that way, rather than making it seem like, oh, well, he would have given up on everything if the mother didn't come back and allow him the chance to be in her life. Like, no, I want to see him grow a pair and be like, no, this isn't okay. You don't get to just waltz in and be like, yeah, I changed her heart and I'm going to let this baby go to somebody who gave her up. Like, no, I wanted to see that.
Well, it's also, you're not going to just randomly move in with 3 men. One of them you had a one-night stand with because you have a baby, and that's convenient. No.
Yeah. Is that healthy for a child?
No, it's not. And it would have been better if they just didn't include her at all in the movie.
Yeah. So I did read some reviews on it, and apparently she is well-liked because they feel that she understood the error of her ways and she came back to her child, and that because of the way the boys accepted her so quickly, it shows that she's a good person and she deserves to be in the child's life.
Those people are stupid and wrong. I mean, no, she should have no part of that child's life. She forfeited all rights. I wrote somewhere, you lost all of your rights when you abandoned your child.
Yeah, abandoning a child is never okay, and I don't like that we've normalized that in this movie a little bit. Like, it's okay if you just needed a break, just drop it off at somebody else's house, and then you can go back later. That's fine. It's cool. They'll be totally fine with it. It's fine.
I'm sure that nothing's gonna happen. It's not like they gave the baby to a drug dealer. Oh, right. They gave the baby to drug dealers.
Yeah, who's having that conversation?
They tried to put a baby in the trunk of a car.
Yeah. So who's telling the mother that? And how is she gonna be? Is she gonna laugh it off? Is that gonna be funny? Because if you told me that you put my baby in a trunk, I'm not laughing it off. That's what she does. So that's about that.
Well, not normal laugh. Maybe maniacal. I've killed everyone involved laughing after the fact. But...
Yeah. So there's that. Since we're talking about that, there is the whole little ditty about the drug subplot.
Yeah.
So this movie is actually a Disney movie, if you guys don't know. Disney took it on and put it under their Touchstone banner.
Label.
Yeah. Other people, I think, I forget, Paramount rejected it, and there was one other one.
TriStar, I believe.
It was that or the Universal? I don't remember. Anyways, 2 other companies rejected it, and then Disney picked it up and put it under Touchstone. So, that said, this could have been a much more Disney movie if we had not included the drug subplot. And the internet seems to be a little bit split on whether or not this drug subplot was necessary at all.
I mean, it's not necessary. It's not unnecessary either. It's also a drug subplot in a more kid-friendly fashion than...
Oh, drugs are kid-friendly in any way, shape, or form?
Well, no, it's showing that drugs are bad because they're all... I can't believe this. We're all going to go to jail.
Yes, but they show it as almost humorous. Like, oh, if you end up intercepting a package with a bunch of drugs, it's going to be so funny. The cops are going to laugh about it, and they're going to chase you on a horse, and then...
You're not going to spend 25 years in prison.
Yeah, and you're going to get to trap somebody in an elevator, and it's going to be so funny. Like, no, that's not how this works. You could get shot in that situation, so, like, maybe don't do that. Like, let's not get involved in these things. Confusing that they would show it that way. They also showed the drugs spilling out, and they were in, like, these little, like, it almost looked like candy packages. Like, it was not...
Well, they're like the personal use drug get high packets.
I'm glad that you know that. That tells me more about you than I wanted to know.
I only know that because I've seen other drugstores like The Wire. So stop it.
Also, drugs getting mailed to your home. How do we feel about that? Because, like, I don't know, but USPS has the right to inspect any package that they deem they want to. Believe they have x-rays and all of those kind of things. So mailing drugs, how do we feel?
I mean, there's a really terrible rap song about mailing drugs through the mail. Just through the postal service.
First of all, why do you know this? And second of all, what is this rap song?
I can ship it to your house through the mail, yo.
What song is this?
I don't even know. It's
probably
the worst rapper in the history of rappers.
And people are going to be like, it's Tupac or something amazing.
I think his name is Stitches.
Oh, okay. I've heard of him.
He's got facial tattoos and he's a degenerate of the highest orders.
Oh, okay. Guys, please know that I don't know exactly what he's talking about, so I am not condoning anything he's saying.
It's a terrible rap song. Bad.
I would like to clarify for the podcast that you are not supposed to ship things through the mail, and if a package is addressed to you and there are drugs in it, you are actually liable and can be, searched. There can be a warrant, all these things. So let's not normalize that.
Don't send drugs to the mail.
And also don't accept them. So, if you do get a package like that, bring it to the police.
It wasn't in the mail. It was dropped off at the front desk. That's the lady that brought it up to
we don't exactly know how it got there because she brought it up to the apartment. I don't think she took it from the drug dealers. I don't think she was a friend of them.
No, she was the desk attendant at the downstairs.
Right, that's where you bring your mail when you have a penthouse. When you have a penthouse, you get a fancy thing, and they bring your mail to you. I'm sorry, you didn't know? I'm friends with the fancy people.
All right, moving on.
Anyway, okay, but so we've determined that no, that is not necessary.
It's not necessary, but it's also not a problem for this movie. It doesn't
add, but it doesn't take away either.
Exactly.
It gave you the whole who's on first situation.
Yeah, it's a great miscommunication giving a baby to drug dealers, which is not a good thing at all.
I would recommend that if you are ever confused about whether or not a baby should be given to a drug dealer, the answer is always no. So, just, I feel like we've get a lot of good advice in this podcast. I really feel. Anyway, so moving on. Because we said we would keep this short. There is probably the most infamous part of this movie. And you didn't know about it before this, did you? Okay, so there is a ghost story part of this. Now, did you read anything about the ghost story?
I did read a little bit.
Okay, so what'd you read?
I read that it's not a ghost.
Oh, but the ghost story itself.
Oh, the ghost story, it's a boy that died in the apartment and haunts that apartment.
And did you see the photos or the video or any of that?
I did.
I sent all to you?
Yes, I did.
And what did you see looking at it?
I saw a person standing there.
Yeah. So before we get into it, obviously Tyler's already spoiled that there is no ghost. However, this was before internet, before Google, before all of that. So what was happening was people were seeing a child in frames, pausing it and confirming that there was said child there. And there was no internet to look it up or Google it or figure out what it was. So people were getting really freaked out. Some people were saying that the scariest movie they ever watched was 3 Men and a Baby because there was an actual ghost in it and they were terrified about the whole thing. So Tom Selleck said in 2014 on Jimmy Fallon that the story was that the kid died in the house where the movie was shot. However, the story was shot on a soundstage. So,
I mean, somebody could have also died on a soundstage, theoretically.
Yeah, the kid, according to the urban legend, hung himself. Yes. So, do you know what that child that you see is?
I do know what it is.
Go ahead.
So, it is a cutout of Ted Danson in a top hat.
Yes, it is. It is from deleted scenes that there was like another subplot more about his acting career, I believe.
Well, so at a different stage of the movie, you actually see the cutout in his room. I just don't think that most people were piecing it together that you could see into his room from where they were shooting and see the cutout.
Right, and I think the other issue too is if you see the two scenes, the cutout, you can see that it's Ted Danson, you can see it's a top hat, all that stuff. But in the scene that we're referring to, it's blurry and it looks more like a child. It's further away and it looks the person smaller. Yeah. But if you guys haven't seen it, you can look up like 3 Men and a Baby Ghost Story or whatever. And I mean, there is no refuting that there is a child there. It just happens to look like a child and it's not really a child. Yeah. So apparently, though, this has been like following them forever, and to the point where Tom Selleck said, I think that Disney might have made it up to help like movie sales because everyone wanted to see the ghost. And so he was like, I'm gonna keep continuing with it. So yeah, there was a ghost. So I don't know, but I mean, I would be curious to know how many other movies have ghost stories. Do you know what other movie we covered that has a ghost story attached to it, or ghost folklore, whatever you want to call it, attached to it?
Not coming to the top of my mind.
Rosemary's Baby.
Right.
Yes. There was a lot of actual things that went around with that movie. So, that being said, I am very interested in that. So, if you guys know other movies that have ghost stories or like haunted things or like curses that happen with the movie, anything like that, I want to know about them because I find that stuff so fascinating. So, please send that to me.
He wants to add to the never-ending list of things that we have to watch.
Yes, I kind of do. Also, that's just really fun for me. So, that said, we finished at 27 minutes. I'm really proud of us. So
we're not finished yet.
Well, we're finished with like the chatty part of it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So anyway, do you have a history minute?
So I do have a few history minutes.
Tyler's History Minute.
Not any of them, all of that relevant. First, the history of skyscrapers, because he's an architect. So skyscrapers, the first ever, was built in Chicago. It's the Home Insurance Building. It was 10 stories, built in 1885.
And you said Chicago? Was that during World's Fair?
Just before the World's Fair,
okay.
By a few decades. It was later built onto and added another 2 stories to in 1891 to a total height of 180 feet.
Holy cannoli.
So this is all made possible by Henry Bessemer, and who invented the Bessemer process to create steel inexpensively.
Okay.
To make it cost effective to use for building. So yeah, that's what I got for that. This movie also had Pampers pay $50,000 to use their diapers
in the movie.
In this movie.
I mean,
so
talk about product placement.
Yes, quite expensive product placement, although not really, considering a couple of the other things on the list. First ever product placement is from the 1920s movie The Garage, Red Crown Gasoline.
Okay.
It's a Buster Keaton film, I believe.
Okay.
And then ever since we've been inundated with them. One of the most notorious offenders is James Bond franchise.
What did they have in it?
A number of different things. Cars, oftentimes, because he has the newest, coolest spy car.
Gotcha. I'm always curious what the most notorious advertiser would be, and it would probably be Coca-Cola, right? Like I feel like.
Well, so the one from James Bond that I read about was not. What does James Bond drink?
I have no idea.
It's a martini, shaken not stirred.
Oh, that's true.
But for one of the recent James Bond, I think it was Skyfall, or one of the ones recently, Heineken actually paid $45 million to change his James Bond's drink to Heineken.
Wow. I wonder if people even, like, associate that.
No, because James Bond is shaken, not stirred.
You needed to find something else. Find a different niche in there. Don't take his drink.
That's just so dumb. And then lastly, disposable diapers were invented in 1956.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing. Also, if anyone wants to tell me when it was determined that it was okay to use cotton balls to clean a dirty bum, I want to know, because no, guys, that's gross and it's going to stick to the bum. So what's going on here? Just wanted to let that out. I had to get it out.
Okay.
I feel better now. Okay, so we have audience asks, and I'm so proud of it.
Audience asks.
I would hope so, given the fact that we're a day late and $1 short.
Okay, you know what? I feel grateful that we did it. So let's not talk about being late. Okay? Okay. So,
that was a special kind of face that you all missed out on listening
what?
to this at home and not getting to watch her do that snarky, sarcastic, get off my back face.
Anyway, Geek to Me Radio. This is partly something we talked about and something we haven't, but I want to talk about part of it. So, with all of the needless remakes in Hollywood, when do you think this will be remade, and who would you cast as the 3 leads?
3 leads.
Wait, you skipped the beginning half.
When is it going to be remade?
Mm-hmm.
As soon as this podcast is heard by somebody.
Oh, honey,
in
baby,
Hollywood.
boo boo. I
No
think
one
we
listens to our podcast.
mentioned on the last podcast that this is already being remade, and Zac Efron is one of the stars.
Oh, right.
Yes, I think it's going to be released on Disney Plus, but either way, it's a Disney movie.
I mean, I can see Zac Efron. I can also see Chris Evans.
I had the 3 Chris's. You can't
Chris
take them.
Pratt?
Yes.
I had Chris Evans, so I'm calling it. I could take Zac Efron in a pinch. I mean, he proved that he's got some serious chops.
What, in Bundy?
Yeah. And then last one. I don't know. I'm blanking on it.
Hemsworth.
You think Hemsworth?
He's Selleck.
Hugh Jackman for Selleck.
But I love him. But the age difference between him and Zac Efron would be a
that
bit
is the
much.
problem,
It's a little
though.
weird. Like, it's a little, like, fatherly. Yeah, it's a little, no. That's why I wanted 3 Chris's. They're right around the same age. They're, wonderful. And they're all heartthrobs. And I'll watch that movie all day long. You know what I'm saying?
Selfish reasons.
Yeah, exactly. Selfish reasons. Exactly. So,
All right.
anyway, but there's that. So if you guys didn't know it was being remade, it is. Shocker.
And there also is a sequel, and there might be another sequel.
Fair. Not Before Coffee said, how did Leonard Nimoy go from Spock to directing this?
Well, he's directed other things.
Yes,
but
he has. Do you know what other things he's directed?
Star Trek.
And?
Don't have that full list.
Don't you worry, I got you. He's directed 3 other films that were not Star Trek films. They were The Good Mother, Holy Matrimony, and Funny About Love.
Okay. I've not seen any of them.
Well, but he did them.
Okay.
So, and I believe one of them was actually before this film.
Huh.
So, he apparently enjoyed romantic comedies, it seems like. So, Spock wasn't emotionless?
Does not compute.
So, yeah. And then people were talking about the ghost, blah, blah, blah. And Benjamin Hall said, would this be more interesting if 2 of the men got together in the end?
No, because that ruins the wonderful...
The bromance?
Hapless friendship that they all have, and they're just buds that are hanging out and making
Yeah,
the
I
best.
don't think this needed a romantic plot at all.
I don't need Sylvia coming back.
No.
For God's sake. Like, get the hell back to England. Go away and don't bother us again, please.
No, I think this movie actually does better without having romance intertwined because it shows that these men, well, it took a while, learned to stand on their own 2 feet, which I think is kind of like an endearing thing. I think they're supposed to be in their early 20s and they're kind of like coming of age and like learning how to exist in the world, and they're doing it and on their own. And I think that's
or even in their,
endearing.
Even in the mid to late 30s, they're still...
I mean, they're guys. So, yeah, I mean, it's okay.
They're a bit behind the curve. When their friends have gotten married, they're still, like, living like it's a frat.
Yeah, and I think it's an endearing thing to watch. And I enjoy that. You don't need no woman to come in and help you, and you don't need no romance to build you up. No, you got you. You know what I'm saying? So, no.
Besides, it would have destroyed the dynamic because now one of them's the third wheel.
Yeah, and then it would be like a couple, a man and a baby? I don't know.
Well, who's the couple? Because if Ted Danson's not in the couple, then he can take his baby and leave.
So it's Ted Danson with one of them, so who is he going to be with?
But then that doesn't make sense because Sylvia comes back and he should be with Sylvia, and then it should be Steve Guttenberg and Tom Selleck, and it'd be two couples. But then that doesn't make sense either, so it's just a mess.
No, I don't like any of it.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, so no.
Don't ever do that.
Disney, if you're listening, that should not happen in the remake. We are not advocating for that. So, okay, we got that out of our way?
Yeah.
All right, so reviews?
Reviews.
So Rotten Tomatoes has it at 75%.
Okay.
And then for the audience score, it's 47.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Did
you read any of it to know what they were?
I did not know.
Whoa. All right.
There's a wide disparity. Now we're going to flip things and let you go first for the ratings.
Okay. So I was actually going to give this a 7. So for me, I enjoyed the film, but there wasn't much to it. You know, there was very little character development. There was a little bit of like them learning to stand on their own feet and all that kind of stuff, but there's very little character development. My favorite character of the whole movie was Mary, of course, because how adorable, and I just wanted to squeeze her little face. But you know, she's a baby, so there's not much there. And there wasn't a lot of female interaction in the film, and I usually tend to feel more rah-rah, you know.
There's nothing to this movie. It was all like frosting on the there's nothing.
Yeah, but it's a cute movie, and I feel like if I had seen it back in the 80s or even when I was a kid in the early 90s, there would be nostalgia attached to it, which would definitely increase the score. So I can definitely see how it's become like a cult classic. Plus, the whole ghost story thing would have freaked me out as a child. So
before the internet,
yeah.
What the hell is that?
Because I would have been like, see, but it's there, and I would have horror. Okay, so that being said, I give it a 7.
I was going to give it a 6.25.
Okay, all right, so lower.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to this movie. Like, there's no good nor bad. Like, it is what it is, and it.
Yeah, but it wasn't a bad watch.
It wasn't a bad watch. I mean, there's no nostalgia for me, so doesn't get points there. There's no real great acting.
The ghost story doesn't add anything for you,
but I know that there's no ghost because we just researched that. And
now, do you think that if I had shown that to you and there was no like proof either way, if there was a ghost or wasn't, would that affect it?
That would have given it extra points, I think.
Yeah, because it would be like
cool.
Like a creep factor.
Yeah,
okay.
But it's just there's nothing to this movie that has any merit that would rate a higher score.
Now, the actors are good actors. We said the acting wasn't that good, but that's not what we mean. They're good actors, but
it's fine.
They're better in other movies.
There's no need for that caliber of acting in this movie.
So you're not interested in the remake?
Not really.
Would you watch it if it was on? Like if, you know, we sometime in our life had cable and it was just on?
For curiosity's sake, probably.
Yeah, okay. Just curious. Okay, so, you know, it gives us a short podcast, so there's that.
Yeah. Still 40 minutes.
Yeah, well, still good. So next week is your choice, and it's actually adorable that you put it on this podcast where we talk about a Leonard Nimoy movie.
So this week is my audience recommend. So I chose Stork's choice of Young Guns.
Yes. And do you remember when he recommended that to us?
No.
It was after we had watched My Best Friend's Wedding.
Oh.
I don't remember exactly why. I think it had to do with a male in the film, but that's as far as I got. I wrote it down somewhere, so we'll know. I believe that is correct. So, we are going to watch Young Guns. I am not super excited about it because it doesn't really look like it's up my alley at all. But
it's a Western. I've never seen it, so maybe it's going to be good. I mean, I'm more familiar with the classic Westerns like Magnificent Seven, Fistful of Dollars.
And if I remember correctly, this one had a decent cast, right? Wasn't this like the one that had some like good actors?
Emilio Estevez from Mighty Ducks. It's got, I think it's got Charlie Sheen.
Yeah. Okay.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, so it's not a bad cast. So it could be okay. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so we'll be back with that. So if you guys want to talk to us outside the podcast, you want to let us know how upset you are that we are late for this podcast. Tweet at us. I am at cinematicallyc. Tyler is Blame Tyler CC. You can email us cinematicallycorrect@gmail.com. Again, if we offended anybody with some of the commentary that was made, I'm sorry, but it's also not my fault. So thank you to Jake Adatha's Music for our intro and outro music, and we will be back next week with Young Guns.
Thank you all for listening.